Hi YouTube, this is Angie the Anti-Theist. I get asked a whole lot, why do you care about religion, or why do atheists care about religion if you don't even believe in this stuff? Now, I can't answer for anyone else. There is no atheist consensus. I live with two other atheists, and one of them just thinks religion is funny. One of them doesn't know what religion is. I think religion is dangerous. I also think it's fascinating, and I always have. I mean, I grew up in an incredibly spiritual, if you will, home. Prayers were constant. Reading the Bible was constant. Discussing things like eternity and the end times and angels in our midst, and all of this stuff was everyday conversation for us. I mean, I grew up thinking about God and angels and demons and the end of the world, and a great cosmic plan. And I think I was in fourth grade. It was the first year I went to public school. And I found some books in the library over in the fairy tale section, but they were myths. They were, other cultures' stories that they told themselves to explain how the earth got here and how humans got here. And I read Native American myths and Japanese and Haitian, which were among my favorite. I read Russian and I read French and I read German, and I read all these different stories from, India and China and all over, and I loved it. I loved reading about, I loved Greek mythology. I love those stories. I loved them when we did them in high school. I already knew them by high school, though, because I'd found them on my own. I lied to my mom in fourth grade and told her that I had a project on Egypt and the pyramids so that I could get a whole bunch of books from the library on mummification and the Egyptian gods. And, I was fascinated looking at, these lists of gods and, what they looked like, and, how they were these very specific gods, the goddess of fertility, the god of agriculture, the god who makes it rain, brother sky. It wasn't, um, most of these didn't have a single deity. It wasn't monotheistic like my faith, which was why it seemed obvious to me that those were all wrong and mine was right. But it's for so first, it's just religion has always fascinated me. Obviously, I don't believe in God or a soul or an afterlife or a spiritual realm or any of that. But I still find it fascinating that other people do. I still enjoy, the mental experiment or the thought exercise of contemplating, different ideal paradises or heavens, or, you know, how God could have done things to make the world different, or, you know, how do Christians explain the Holocaust? It's interesting because it is this way of understanding someone. Like, I thought when I was a kid that reading the folk tales and fairy tales of different cultures would sort of give me an insight into their values and how they saw themselves as a people, and by the stories that they told themselves and told each other. And I still think there's something to that, and the religious stories we tell each other are no different. You can go on Sunday to 10 churches just on my block and find 10 different messages. The typical, Baptist church you're going to find in the South is nothing compared to the Westboro Baptist Church in Kansas. Just there's no consistency. There's no single vision, not even within Catholicism. The Vatican changes its mind, the popes change, and suddenly the infallible Word of God changes too. Um, I find it, interesting, but also scary. It's fine for it's fine to me that people tell these stories and they communicate their values through these stories, whether their values are good or bad, because if they didn't believe the stories were true, then they wouldn't try to shape their values to the stories. They would just find the stories that fit their values and tell those. So I can't really answer for any other atheists, but the main reason that I spend so much time talking and thinking about religion is because it fascinates me. I spent 25 years believing, now I don't. I want to know what it would have taken to get me to stop believing sooner, how I can help other people quit believing, because being an atheist has improved my life so much. I am free of the yoke of Christ. I'm unburdened by that religious guilt. I get to love me. I get to treat my mental illness instead of getting demons cast out of me. I get to take care of myself and not be selfish. I don't have to put an imaginary fucking God before me in my life, or before my son or my loved ones. I get to pick what's important, what my purpose is. I don't have some sky daddy slave master like Rick Warren, who's got a purpose for all of us and a very specific plan and plotted out every second of our lives to fulfill his ministry. I, I don't want that kind of God, and I want to know why other people do and how I can help them to not need that. Because, of course, at the end of the day, I do think that religion is destructive. It's a delusion, which is problematic. There are a lot of us with mental illness in churches and synagogues and kingdom halls, and it's torture. Especially in, Scientology or Christian Science or my cult, anything that doesn't allow you to use medication. In my group, we weren't allowed to use therapy. There's a lot of limitations within religion that are put on, humanity's ability to care for ourselves and others. Religion stifles that, and it inhibits it. And there are kids that die every fucking year here in the US, in Australia, anywhere on the globe, of medical neglect for religious reasons. People who try to pray away their kids' disease and it doesn't work. Or parents who just never take their kids to a doctor and they die of diabetes that's totally undiagnosed at age 9. I mean, I didn't get my OCD diagnosis till I was 21. I never had immunizations as a kid. I, born at home, had a total, I didn't have a social security card or a birth certificate until I was 4. I mean, I was just off the grid. And that wasn't a decision that my parents should have gotten to make, to not register me, to not enroll me in some kind of school. We allow so many families to homeschool. And while I support that, I think that there should be national education standards. There needs to be certification program for parents in order to be approved as educators. It can be an online class. It can be $5. It can be free. I'm not trying to make it harder for people. I'm just trying to make sure that we aren't raising up a whole new generation of the kids like the ones that were in my cult, who I was giving them secret reading lessons when they were 9 and 11 and 12 and 13 years old and still hadn't learned how to fucking read because their parents were scared of any book that disagreed with their God or their religion. And they were more concerned with their children being obedient than educated. So, yeah, that's why I talk about religion all the time, because first, it's interesting, and second, it's fucking dangerous. So I want to get everybody to the point eventually where we're all just like, wow, wasn't that an interesting, set of stories? The way we say about Greek mythology. We enjoy them for the stories that they are and for the fables and parables that they tell. We like the just so stories and explanations for the seasons and, how the world came to be. If only we could view all religion that way, then we could all just find it interesting together, and there would be no reason to fight about it. That's all. I hope you have a great and godless day.